If we asked you right now to visualize a shape or a form, say a triangle or square, or even a house or the Egyptian pyramids, you would undoubtedly be able to see in your mind's eye a clear picture of any of these objects. But what if we asked you to visualize the shape of a song or a musical piece? Just like a sculpture or a building, all music has a construction or a musical form. So now imagine you're standing in front of a house. You can more or less see the whole house at the same time, I'm sure. But the idea of musical form or shape can feel elusive because the form happens in time rather than in space. To see, or really to hear, the form in music, you have to remember all of the music that you've already heard while you simultaneously absorb the music that is happening at the moment.
The shape or form of music is much easier to hear if you have a roadmap to follow as you listen. It can help you understand where in the journey you are, helps to anticipate what comes next, and even makes the experience of listening more active. So instead of just hearing the music, you feel like you're listening in a deeper way, that you're in it, so to speak. Let's take a look at the form of a very simple song, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. This song has 3 distinct parts. Let's call the first one A.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are.
The second B.
Up above the world so high, like a diamond in the sky.
And then the third is a repetition of the first one. So A again.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are.
This symmetrical or balanced ABA form is so basic and pleasing that we can find it all kinds of examples in all kinds of music over hundreds of years, in nursery rhymes, folk music, rock songs, and classical music.
Or take the song Yesterday by the great old band The Beatles. Here we have a bit of an extension of the form we just talked about. So instead of ABA in this song, the A section is repeated. So we have AABA. Have a listen. Two essential elements of this simple form are balance and contrast. In great artwork, you can't have one without the other. So let's keep in mind this ABA form and its essential components of balance and contrast as we jump to the main subject of this video, sonata form.
Would like to talk about this so-called sonata form as it relates to Beethoven's Violin Sonata number 3. In this piece for violin and piano, Beethoven uses the, you guessed it, basic ABA form, or technically AABA form, used in Yesterday. The only difference is that each section is more elaborate and extended than in Twinkle or Yesterday. Let's think back to the beginning, where we talked about having a roadmap to see the shape of the music. For a song like Twinkle or Yesterday, we might imagine that the roadmap we follow looked something like this. We left home and drove to our friend's house. That would be the A section. Then spend a bit of time at our friend's. That's the B section. And finally, we once again return home, the A section again. Now, in sonata form, we need to imagine a more elaborate trip.
And in sonata form, now, instead of calling the sections ABA, we have fancy names for the three sections. The first A section is where the music, with all of its material and themes or musical subjects, are presented for the first time, or exposed, if you will, and it's called the exposition. The B section is the part where all the themes that you heard in the exposition are being developed. Therefore, it's called the development section. The return of the A section has the fanciest and frankly strangest name of them all. It's the section where the material is being restated and summarized, and it's called the, wait for it, the recapitulation.
Now, we've briefly talked about the balance that is ingrained in the form with the two A sections with a B section in the middle, or in the case of the sonata form, the exposition, development, and recapitulation. But remember that we need contrast as well as balance. Where does contrast fit in all of this? Well, in this case, contrast comes from the harmony. You see, music is written in different keys or tonalities, and each key has a different and distinct color or feeling. This piece, for example, is written in E flat major. It's a particularly bright and outgoing key, historically associated with brilliance, heroism, pride, and joy. But if the whole piece would be entirely in the same key, it would sound very boring. Composers use a tool called modulation to give music a sense of journey and narrative. Every time we take a trip, we leave from home, and home is always the place we return to. Where we go in between, it has limitless possibilities. The same idea applies to music, where home is a musical key.
So now let's take the road trip of Beethoven's third violin sonata. As we start out on our journey, we leave from home, in this case, the key of E flat major. The home key gives us the feeling of belonging or arrival, the place where the music feels really comfortable. Beethoven presents us not with one simple tune in the A section like in Twinkle, but a couple different themes that are contrasting. The first theme is in our comfy, cozy key of E flat major, which in music we call the tonic. Let's hear this first subject. Suddenly, after this first theme, we see a big bridge. We're starting to get a little bit farther away from home. In the music, this bridge functions to help Beethoven go from our home key, here another E flat major chord, to a key called the dominant. Now the relationship between the dominant and the tonic is one of tension and resolution. When we get to that last chord, that feels right. So when the music modulates to the dominant, it feels like it's unfinished and unresolved. Let's hear an example of that. We want it to go to the next key. Let's hear this bridge passage and hear how Beethoven tears through the different keys in order to arrive to the second subject, which is in the key of the dominant. The next landmark in our road trip is a charming little contrasting theme. It's almost as if we've left the city and crossed the bridge into the country. This charming and light-hearted second subject or theme is no longer in our home key of E flat major or the tonic. It's in the dominant key. Now let's hear it. As you could hear, the violin starts the melody and then playfully passes it to the piano. Now we've almost finished our A section or exposition, but before it's over, Beethoven gives us a thrilling virtuosic passage that could make your hairs stand on end. It launches us into the end of the A section. This end, or little tag of the exposition, is called a coda. And you can imagine it like a little musical ribbon to tie up the loose ends. A coda is kind of like singing "and many more" after Happy Birthday, or "bum ba dum bum bum bum" after anything else. In Beethoven's coda, we hear repeated notes played very softly and suspensefully. Can we hear that? And then boom! Suddenly we hear loud chords and arpeggios, almost like fireworks going off. These fireworks show the end of the exposition. Then we bump up into a repeat sign, which signals the end of our A section, and we play the whole exposition again as if for extra added emphasis.
We've now rounded a corner in our Sonata Form road trip, and we're ready for the B section, or development. We're now in another territory. There's a lot of familiarity here. Many of the roads look similar to home, and some of the houses bear some resemblance too. But in this part, the familiar building blocks start to get changed and altered. Listen as Beethoven explores two ideas from the coda of the exposition. Remember the fireworks? Well, now we get an even more elaborate display. It reaches a climax only to be followed by the soft repeated notes, also an idea we first heard in the coda. Remember these repeated notes? Check out how Beethoven transforms it into something else, this time with some more mystery. We'd like to talk to you about one very special moment at the end of the development, or B section. So far, we've traveled far and wide, but harmonically speaking, nothing seems completely unrelated to our home. Now we suddenly find ourselves in uncharted territory, in the exotic key of C flat major. We have come so far from our home key of E flat here. Metaphorically speaking, we started at home but now we are in a distant tropical island.
This island of newness not only appears in a key we would never expect, but Beethoven also presents us with a melody we've never heard before. But the true genius of this music is that just when we feel that we're farther than ever from home, Beethoven returns us to our familiar A section, now called the Recapitulation. The Recapitulation is in our most warm and comfortable key, E flat major, and that lets us know that we're back home safe and sound. This time, Beethoven doesn't modulate to any new keys. It's all E flat major, home, home, home. No matter how far we thought we had gone, home was always beckoning us.
Perhaps one of the reasons that Sonata Form feels so natural, so right, or so human is because we can all imagine starting a journey from home with great anticipation of the exciting and unknown, taking the trip with new sights and experiences, and then looking forward to the warmth and comfort of finally returning home when the adventure is all finished.
We're so glad you joined us today on this exploration of Sonata Form. We hope that this newfound awareness might help you listen to all music with fresh ears. I bet the next time you hear a piece that you're experiencing for the very first time, you might even be able to see or hear its shape.